We have everything, right? Hopefully we're not missing out on any specs. We have everything, right? All right, here it is, the official season 4 tier list. Everyone wants to know the meta. We've been doing keys nonstop for 2 weeks, so let's break it down. So to talk about tiers real quick, S tier, in my opinion, an S tier class is a class where you're not going to see world first keys without this class. It's going to be in basically every single comp by the end of the season. Absolutely, undeniably the best version, the best of that class or that role. A tier is a class where it's a spec that's very good. You're very likely to see it in high keys, but it's not mandatory. B tier is a spec that's okay. It can perform well. You'll see probably specialists playing it in high keys only. Not a bad spec, you know, has some redeeming qualities. C tier is like, this spec is pretty beans. You're probably not going to see that many people playing it. D tier is don't play this. D tier stands for don't play this spec. We don't even need an F tier. Delete row. We'll start with healers since that's basically all I know. In the S tier, I think we just have to do it. I just think we have to put Priest in the S tier. PI plus Fae or plus Kyrian is so giga strong. Also, with how good its healing is and how much healing is actually needed, Priest is just so giga strong. I think you're pretty much going to see Priest on every team in Great Push. Maybe you might see like one healer used as like a specialist in a certain dungeon, but Priest is so good. Very straightforward, on-demand heals, does good damage, good support buttons. It's very, very strong. It's definitely the best healer right now, I would say. Now in the A tier. In the A tier, the first healer that I want to put behind Priest is Resto Shaman. Now for pugs, you might argue that Resto Shaman is as good as Priest. Resto Shaman is a really, really good pug healer. You have a kick. You bring Bloodlust when you have some sort of weird comp. You have pretty good like sustained AoE healing and also like really crazy burst healing with Ascendance and SLT. Like you can basically save your team from trying to wipe themselves. Shaman is a great pug healer. Also, it does really, really good damage. Shaman this season, whether you take haste for single or crit for AoE, is doing really, really good damage. The weaknesses that Shaman have, I would say, is that it's a lot less mana efficient than Priest. And so some of these really hard Tyrant bosses, I don't know, like you're going to need to be playing very, very well as a Shaman, whereas a Priest, you can kind of just karate chop heal over and over. Also, in intense situations where you can't DPS much, like for example, like the Trash and Iron Docks or like a really hard boss, you don't get any value from, like you're basically placing Vesper and Flame Shock and not doing much else. Whereas Priest, you're still doing PI, you can still run Fae, you can still contribute a lot with Shaman. Those were the easy ones. Okay, let's do another easy one. Not in the A tier, and I'm gonna have to do it. I think I'm going to put Mistweaver in the C tier. Look, you can heal keys with Mistweaver. Mistweaver is honestly not even that bad of a healer. It brings some things that are useful. But I just feel like it doesn't have enough redeeming qualities to be bringing it into like high keys. Healer right now in current season, it just needs to be someone that can keep you alive. If you know somebody who plays Mistweaver and they're good and they're going to keep you alive, then invite them, invite them. But in terms of comparing this to Shaman or Priest with what they bring, I just think you have to put Mistweaver in C tier. I mean, let's be honest. Last season, we saw only one Mistweaver in the entire top 100. All right, this is a hard one. I think a lot of people would want me to put Disc Priest in C tier. I'm gonna do it. It definitely goes above Mistweaver. However, I don't think Disc Priest is nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Disc Priest gets Giga Haste with the affix, and also it still has a lot of the redeeming qualities that Holy Priest has. Disc Priest also has really strong external DRs. Disc Priest has pain suppression, barrier. Everyone is flaming Disc Priest right now. One of the only major problems that Disc Priest has is it just runs out of mana too fast and it struggles with bosses. I actually don't think Disc Priest is nearly as bad as people say it is. The only reason it's so unpopular is because number one, it's difficult. Number two, Holy Priest owns. I don't think Disc is nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Rapture is giga strong. Barrier, pain sup. You have so many good cooldowns. You have so much haste. You just put up Shadow Word pains everywhere. This might be heavy copium, but I put Disc Priest slightly ahead of Mistweaver. All right, next healer. This is a hard one because I haven't really played this healer that much and a lot of people aren't playing it. Holy Paladin. I feel like Holy Paladin is certainly above Disc Priest and Mistweaver, but I struggle putting it on the same level as Resto Shaman right now. I think Holy Paladin probably struggles with some of the boss fights, especially fights like Mana Worm or Mana Devourer, where people have to be really, really spread out. Holy Paladin can also be really, really good on some fights, like Morose. Maiden is also another really good fight for Holy Paladin, I bet. You can just sack and just break the barrier, also protect people. I feel like I might be underrating Paladin, but I think I'm just going to put it on B tier. I think you could be doing really high keys as Paladin, but I just don't think we're going to see that many. I think it's hard to put Paladin on the same level as Resto Shaman, but I think Paladin has a lot of redeeming qualities. Last season, I would have put Paladin up here with Resto Shaman, but number one, I think the healing profiles of some of these new dungeons are not super great for Paladin. Number two, a lot of these dungeons are also very unfriendly to melee, and I think playing a melee healer is going to be a lot more difficult. I actually think you could do very high keys as Paladin, but I don't think they're as good as Resto Shaman. Their damage is probably not going to be very good compared to Shaman. Getting haste from the seasonal is like okay, but I feel like you're probably going to run out of mana. I haven't played it. I don't know if you could even utilize haste that well. All right, the last healer, Resto Druid. What do we do with Resto Druid? I feel like Resto Druid is probably B tier with Holy Paladin. Probably, I don't know. I think this is really hard because here's the thing about Resto Druid. Resto Druid, I feel like owns with the haste affix, and I feel like the seasonal affix is pretty good for Resto Druid. I also feel like Resto Druid is probably better at healing some of the bosses right now. Versus Paladin, I would probably feel safer with a Resto Druid than a Paladin. I don't know. I feel like it's better than Holy Paladin. Again, I don't know if I put it on the same level with Resto Shaman. I spread these out into 4 tiers, but I don't think these are as far apart as people might think. This is exactly what you're going to see in high keys, right? I think you're going to see an overwhelming majority of Holy Priests. I think you're going to see a handful of Resto Shamans, and then maybe a couple Resto Druids or H-Pals, and then maybe like one crazy Mistweaver and Disc Priest, right? I think I'm pretty happy with this. I don't think Resto Druid and Holy Paladin are that far behind Shaman. I think I'm pretty happy with this list in terms of representation and strength. That being said, I think you could be healing high keys with almost every single healer. There may be some fights where you really, really, really struggle with some healers. Like, I would imagine Disc Priest on a fight like Mana Devourer with Grievous. Like, what are you even doing on that fight as Disc Priest? Whereas Mistweaver would totally own at that fight. So I think this is where I rank the healers. A lot of people are wanting Disc to be in D tier. I don't think Disc Priest is that bad. Look, I'm not gonna play it. Look, everyone's like, oh, bring Disc Priest into a lower tier. You know, I'm not that crazy. I'm not stupid. Okay. All right, now we'll do tanks. Tanks, I think, will be also easy. In the S tier, you have to put Blood DK. Blood DK is a completely OP, completely omega strong tank. It's only going to get stronger when every single Blood DK will be able to get Mythic Gavel. Last season, Blood DK was also insanely strong, and almost all Blood DKs didn't even have a Mythic Gavel. Blood DK has insane survivability. With the haste affix, you can keep up Dancing Rune Weapon, literally like infinite uptime. You're doing insane, like the insane single target damage of Blood DK combined with how little you have to heal it. Blood DK is just the best tank. I think there's absolutely no denying it. I think in Great Push, every single tank in every single dungeon is going to be a Blood DK, except for maybe like a couple like weird picks for specific dungeons. Yeah, Blood DK I think is just far and away the best tank right now. A tier. Tanks that are still very good and can do high keys, but not as good as Blood DK. I think there's actually a lot of tanks in this category. The first tank I'm going to put, because Dorky's freaking out, is Prop Pally. I think Prop Pally is a very good tank. Prop Pally has a lot of good group utility. Prop Pally does good damage, like especially on like mid number of targets, like basically the amount of stuff you can Divine Toll or Avenger's Shield. Prop Pally also has a lot of kicks, which is very nice. However, Prop Pally does have some issues. Prop Pally has windows where you are vulnerable. Like, you can't keep Arden up 100% like you can keep Dancing Rune Weapon up 100%. And also, it's just doing less single target damage than Blood DK, but it's still a very, very good tank. Next, This might be Mega Copium. Well, let's save the Copium for a little bit. A tier, I also want to say Brewmaster, I think. I think Brewmaster is also very good and can do high keys. I haven't played that much with Brewmaster, so this might be a little off base, but just from what I've been seeing, watching people, I feel like Brewmaster is like definitely up there. Brewmaster is just does good damage. One annoying thing about Brewmaster is that there's not really a lot of physical damage in the meta. Like there's basically outlaw rogues and that's it. A lot of the damage is coming from Fire Mage, Survival Hunter, Warlock. So if you were getting a ton of benefit from Mystic Touch, I feel like Brewmaster could be better, but again, you're just pretty far behind in single target damage compared to Blood DK. Next, Bear. Do we put Bear in C tier or D tier? Because I think these are the only places it can go. I think putting Bear next to Mistweaver and Disc Priest seems pretty correct. I think putting Bear down here, I can't put Bear as D tier because Bear has some redeeming qualities, especially for pugs. Like you have a battle res, like you have a battle res. In Incarn, you're really strong. All right. We'll put it in the D tier. Look, I don't think Bear is that bad. I think, especially if you're playing casually, this is like a fine tank to do 15s on. It's also very, very simple, so it's not that hard. Like it's a tank that is not really that hard to misplay compared to like I would almost rather have a Bear in a weekly 15 instead of a Vengeance. Like I would rather have a Bear instead of a Vengeance, but yeah, not much good to say about Bear right now. I mean, the big problem with Bear is like we talked about Prot Paladin having like near infinite Ardent. We talked about Blood DK having near infinite Rune Weapon. Look, I get it. If Bear had infinite Incarn, it would be OP, but Bear is like only really good in Incarn, and the Incarn uptime is just so low compared to every other tank's major cooldown. All right, inhale some Copium, boys. Are you ready? Are you ready for the Copium? I'm putting Prot Warrior in A tier. I actually think Prot Warrior is good. It just plays really clunky, and so nobody wants to play it. I think Prot Warrior is not that bad. I think it's really, really tanky against physical damage, and now that there's more stuff that you can spell reflect in these dungeons compared to Shadowlands, I think you're gonna gain benefit from that too. I think there's also some situations where you may even want Prot Warrior in like a great push setting. On top of that, Prot Warrior does insane single target damage as long as they can get a good execute window. If you can actually like be ripping executes on Prot Warrior, you can do as much damage as a Blood DK does. I don't know about more single target than a Blood DK, but you can put up competitive single target on a Prot Warrior if you have an execute. Not only during execute, but I'm saying like if there is an execute window for the boss, I think Prot Warrior is really, really good. But the way that it plays is like really clunky, and so not a lot of people play it, but I think it's right up there with Brew and Prot Pally. I'm gonna be a little bit biased here. Some people might get mad about this one. I'm gonna put Vengeance in B. I think Vengeance is really tanky against trash. If there's a lot of mobs that you can tank, I think Vengeance is giga strong. Also, giving Chaos Brand to your DPS is really, really good. But I feel like Vengeance is the most commonly misplayed tank. And also, I think Vengeance on single target is not really good. Like, I think Vengeance has similar problems to Bear in that, like, it's just so lacking in single target, and it's lacking defensively on single target too. Like, if you don't have a lot of mobs that you can gain, like, you're just not that tanky. Having to heal a Vengeance when there's so much group damage in this season is kind of beans. Like, I think for pugs, I think honestly, like, Bear and Vengeance would both be C, but if Vengeance is played really well, it kind of moves up. I think for pugs also Prot Warrior might go down, but a really well played Prot Warrior I think can tank with the best of them. All right, so clearly there's a best, and then there's some good second options. All of these are viable. If you really want to make it work, you can play Disc or Mistweaver. I don't know if we'll see any high keys as Bear. This is current. This is not for Dragonflight. There's no Evoker. All right, let's talk about some DPS specs. Now this is going to be hard because there's still gear to be gotten. There's still there hasn't been as many keys done yet, so we haven't got to see a lot of these specs. I'm gonna make this might be a wild prediction, but I actually don't know if there's any S tier DPS. I know it sounds a little crazy, but I don't think there's any one DPS class that's so OP that you need to have it in every single key. I think if there was, everyone's saying survival. I don't know if survival is absolute S tier, absolute necessary in every key. Destro, I mean, Destro definitely is an S tier. I think Destro definitely is an S tier. All right, well, this is gonna, look, this might be the most controversial pick then. I was gonna do a bit where I put Sub Rogue in A tier and then say it was survival, because then you guys would make fun of me for not knowing what I'm talking about, but I feel like you guys wouldn't get the joke. Anyway, I think survival is definitely high A tier. Survival's a really, really good spec. I don't think it's mandatory to do high keys. I don't think you're going to see survival in every single comp. I think survival right now, with the quote-unquote nerfs that they did, is actually like pretty well balanced, because like now it's doing, well, when I say well balanced, I mean it's good at everything. It has good single now, it has good AoE, it brings lust, it has some decent utility. Well balanced was not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is that it's like pretty decent at everything. It has good damage profiles. This is a psychedelic take. All right, look, come back and comment at the end of the season when every single team that's pushing high keys doesn't have a survival. Look, we have Great Push coming up. Look, hold on. Let's look at Raider IO right now. Let's look at the teams and qualifiers. Let's look at the teams and qualifiers right now. Okay. MDI, America's Proving Ground, Dungeon Leaderboards. Wait a second. Dorky's team, who's flaming me for not putting Survival Hunter in the S tier, has a weird, and JCP's team doesn't have a Survival Hunter. Two teams decided that the best possible comp in this dungeon does not include a survival. Look, sometimes you're just right, chat. Look, sometimes, there's the streamer and there's the chatters, all right? Sometimes you just have to be right. Sometimes you just... What? Hold on. Is this another dungeon? Wait a second. Is this another dungeon where there's no survival? Both of the top NA teams in both of the time trial dungeons are not playing... Look, I'm right. Just because Dorky's been right every other time in his life doesn't mean I'm not right. Survival is going in A tier. It's a great DPS. It's really good. It's really valuable. You're very happy to have a survival hunter in your group. The main worry about survival hunters in pugs are you invite them because they're a hunter, but then they join your party and you forget to check, and then they're beast mastery or marksman. That's the biggest weakness that survival has. So you have to be careful about that one. But besides that one, survival is still a very, very good class. All right, another A tier DPS, Destrolock. I think Destrolock is still pretty good right now. Warlock is also giga tanky. Warlock does good AoE damage. It has pretty good single target damage as well. Not like amazing, but pretty good. It benefits a lot from PI. It actually owns still. Also on top of that, one of my favorite things about Destrolock is that it's very, very tanky. Destrolock is very, very tanky. I think it's in a pretty good place right now, where I think, again, you don't have to have a Destrolock in your team. You don't have to have a Destrolock in your team. So this is a hard one. This is a hard situation. So I'm gonna do this again. You guys might disagree with me here. I'm gonna do this here though. I'm gonna put Demo and Destro both here. This is a little bit of a complicated scenario, okay? Because Demo is gonna be better on single target, and it still is pretty good. And you play one or the other in keys. You play either Demo or you play Destro. Demo's really good, and there are a lot of these dungeons in this season where you need to kill the bosses and you need to have good boss damage. This is... Think about Workshop, think about Upper, think about what are some other dungeons where you really need to kill bosses. Those are like for sure the two big ones, but there's a lot of difficult bosses that you need to have good boss damage on, and having Demo in your group I think is actually pretty nice. Yeah, this is a weird situation where you play one or the other. Like if you're playing Destro all the time or Demo all the time, I don't think that's optimal, and it's probably not quite on the level of playing Survival Hunter in every key. And in the poor words that I used earlier, Survival Hunter is more well balanced, but being able to play one or the other, I think I have to put both of these in A tier. All right, more A tier specs. Fire Mage. I think Fire Mage is giga good right now. Fire Mage, especially with a Fey Priest, does giga strong single target. Fire Mage also has DB, which is a really good range stop. It's like one of the best range stops you can have. Fire Mage has an immunity and a cheat death. Fire Mage is really strong. The problem with Fire Mage, I think, is its AoE, like its AoE damage isn't really that good. Like you're mainly bringing Fire Mage because of the single. So you need to have like AoE blasters if you're playing Fire Mage. Windows update? No. Yeah, Fire Mage is really good. I think you won't see Fire Mage in every single dungeon, but I think Fire Mage will definitely make an appearance in a lot of keys. And I think Fire Mage has been underrated for a long time. So Fire Mage, good. Demo and Destro, good. Survival Hunter, good. What else is good? Rogue. Rogue is very good. It's tempting to put Rogue in S tier, but I don't think you play Rogue in every single comp. I don't think you play Rogue in every single comp. Here's the question I have for you guys. Do we put, is Sub and Outlaw both A tier? Like, do you switch between Sub and Outlaw depending on the dungeon? When I was playing with Junkrat was only playing Outlaw. So you don't think you play any Sub, even with weapons or whatever? Okay. Sub we'll put in B tier then, since everyone is playing Outlaw. I feel like there's gotta be some dungeons or some situations where you play Sub, and there's no way we can put any rogue spec below B tier. So Outlaw, very good. I would say Outlaw's damage is probably the lowest of the DPS that we have in A tier, but it's a rogue, so it also brings the most out of everything in A tier. You have infinite stops. It's still got good single target and good cleave. Outlaw is just a very good spec. I mean, rogue will always, there will almost always be a rogue spec in A tier. I think rogue is very strong, but I also don't think you have to play with a rogue. All right, are there any A tier specs left? I think, do we put Windwalker in A tier? Probably. I think Windwalker is really good too. But the problem is, I don't know if it's like on the same level of these specs. I'm gonna put it there because I think it's good. Yeah, I think we put Windwalker here. I think it's probably the worst of the specs here. Like, I think I probably like maybe rank the specs like this, but they all sort of bring different things and do I don't know, see, it's hard though, right? Like, how do you put, I don't know, like they all just do different stuff. Like you just want like a mix. You just want like a mix of all of them, you know? Windwalker, I think, is definitely it's sort of like a mix between an AoE blaster and a rogue, because it has a lot of good stops too. Like Windwalker's really good for like having sweep, having para, having ring. You bring a lot of mob control with a Windwalker, and I think not having Windwalker or rogue is kind of beans, but I think Windwalker isn't quite as good as the others just because it doesn't scale that well with the affix. Like, you just take crit, whereas the other class, do you take haste on, I don't think you take haste on rogue either, but rogue is rogue. All right, what other specs? Are there any others? There's no other specs we can really put in A tier, I don't think. I think these classes are in a league of their own. What are some bean specs? Now let's go in reverse. Let's weed out some of the bean specs that there's no reason to bring. What do you guys think about Arcane Mage? D tier or C tier? I feel like Arcane Mage is like, why do you play Arcane Mage? Arcane Mage is a mage spec and it brings lust and its damage is probably fine and it probably should be in C tier, but when you can play any of the other specs, I feel like we should just put it in D tier. It's a mage. Arcane can't be in D tier. You can't put a mage spec in D tier. It's like putting a rogue spec in D tier. Like, it's just a mage, man. It's just a mage. Arcane, just, why are you playing it? You don't have DB, you don't have 2 blocks, you don't have slows. Like, it's just, unless Arcane is just giga blasting DPS compared to every other mage spec, there's absolutely no reason to play it. Feral D tier? Is D tier just going to be every druid spec except for Resto? This might be tragic. I think we might put Feral in D tier. Does anyone even play Feral? Do we just put every single druid spec in D tier? This is a tragedy. This is a tragedy here. I feel like you could play... Poor druid, man. Poor druid. D is for druid right now. Look, if it was up to me... Wait a second. It is up to me. Look, I'm putting Boomy and Feral both in C tier because I think there is at least some redeeming qualities of those classes. I think there's at least some redeeming quality of Boomkin and Feral Druid. Boomkin's damage is beans, but look, it's a giga range class. Beam is good, trees is good. Like, there's some redeeming qualities that Boomkin has. Look, I know you guys all want me to put Boomkin in D tier, but I don't think Boomkin's terrible damage. Like, it's like bottom of the list probably for DPS. But I'm gonna put both of the Druid specs in C tier because I think there's at least some redeeming qualities to both of these specs. Will you see them in high keys? Almost definitely not, but I don't think you can really put them in D tier. If Bear is D, both are D. Well, I wanted to put Bear in C tier probably too, but everyone wanted Bear in D tier for Druid. Check your place for a chemical leak. Oh boy. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. All right. What other classes go down here? Aflock. Does Aflock go in D tier? Look, you guys wanted a D tier. Like, okay, what's the reason? Why would you ever bring an Aflock? What redeeming qualities does Af have? You guys are telling me that you think Boomkin is worse than Aflock? Come on. Aflock is basically just a Boomkin except it doesn't bring anything. They pump and gambit. I mean, no. If I invited an Affliction Lock, I'd uninvite. Yeah, exactly. We gotta put Aflock in the D tier. I think Aflock goes down here with Druid. All right. What's left here? What about Ret? Does Ret go in D tier too? I feel like Ret has some redeeming qualities, but just nobody plays it. I feel like I can't put Ret in Aflock tier. I like Ret is like same as Boomkin. I feel like it at least brings some stuff. Like there's at least some cool stuff that you have in your group when you have a Ret or a Boomkin. I'd probably rather even have a Ret than either of the Druid specs. It's true that Ret does more damage than Boomkin, but Ret also just pulls threat 1 second into the pull and then dies, right? Like, that's just because it does more damage, it's gonna even out because the Ret's gonna be dead for half the key anyway. Okay, what other, are there any other super bean specs that are completely useless? What about Arms Warrior? Can we put Arms Warrior in C tier too? I just don't really know. Everybody wants Arms B. I just don't know that much about Arms Warrior. All right, look. All right, copium time. Okay, ready? I'm gonna put Arms B tier, and here's why, okay? You guys just are undervaluing Mortal Strike, okay? You guys are undervaluing Mortal Strike. All these affixes, the entire seasonal affix is built on healing. You guys just didn't give Arms Warrior a try. You bring Arms Warrior, you Mortal Strike the guy. Think about how easy the mini boss is. Yeah, but Arms Warrior has the best one, right? Doesn't Arms Warrior have the highest Mortal Strike? Is Arms Warrior not the high? I thought it was the highest. Wait, does Survival has the highest Mortal Strike? Dude, Survival's OP. Survival's OP. Hey, maybe if there were any good Arms Warriors, maybe we'd know what to rank them. Don't blame the streamer, blame the Arms Warrior community. Dude, I knew Survival had Mortal Strike. I thought Arms always had the highest one, and I thought the other ones were less. What Arms Warrior community? See, exactly. All right, other DPS. All right, look, we'll just continue on with the Bong Cloud takes, okay? We'll just continue on with the Bong Cloud takes. Shadow Priest, I think, is actually B tier. I don't even think Shadow Priest is that bad now. I think Shadow Priest is actually kind of good. Especially considering you can play double PI and you can PI a Warlock on your party. I think Shadow is actually underrated. I think Shadow is like highly underrated right now. Also, if you're dumb enough to be in a group without a priest, if you're playing with Shaman, then you get all the priest utility with Mass Dispel, with Grip, with Disease Dispel, as you do if you had a Holy Priest. I think Shadow Priest is actually kind of good right now. I don't know if you'll see it in any real keys. Like, I don't know if you'll see any of these specs in any Great Push keys, but I think Shadow is actually not that bad right now. How are people saying Shadow Priest is A tier? You guys are crazy. This is why Blizzard balances like shit. They watch Growl's tier list. I guarantee you that Blizzard does not care at all about anything I have to say about class balance. 100%. All right, let's move on. All right, let's just go down the list here. Now, this is going to be hard because these are literally classes that I have not played with a single time in all of Season 4. So we may default to the chat with some of these. Ass Rogue. Do we just... Putting a Rogue spec in C tier just doesn't seem right. But there's no way it's as good. There's no way it's as good as Sub, so it has to be in the C tier. No one plays Ass Rogue. You can't put... No, there's no way you can put a Rogue spec in D tier. There's no way you can put a Rogue spec in D tier. It's just not a thing that you can do. Rogue just brings too much good stuff. You cannot... Look, you guys are saying that I'm crazy, and then some of you guys are telling me to put Ass Rogue in the same tier as Aflock. And you guys are saying I'm the one that's crazy. We're definitely putting it above all these specs too, because it's definitely better than these specs. All right, BM Hunter. feel like BM Hunter is just like probably B tier. It's probably just like average, probably like fine. His damage is like probably okay. People were playing BM for the last boss of Grimrail, so it's at least like something you can do. I think BM's actually probably fine. Like there's not a lot of reason to bring BM over any of these specs, but I think BM's damage is like probably fine. All right, Ellie Shaman. Dude, I haven't seen Ellie Shaman in a hot minute. I haven't, like, who even plays Ellie Shaman anymore? I feel like Ellie is like, it's hard putting it on with these specs. I don't think Ellie is quite with these specs. I feel like it's like probably low B. Arranged with a 12-second kick, I think is good. It also has a lot of group healing. The group healing from Ellie Shaman is nice with how much group damage there is. I think it's like in these specs right here. I think it's fine to play Ellie Shaman, but you're probably not going to see them in high keys. All right, Enhanced Shaman. Enhanced Shaman does pretty good damage too, right? I would kind of put Enhanced Shaman like probably in here with these specs. I feel like Enhance is like not that bad. It does like really good single target damage, doesn't it? I feel like Enhance is like up in here. Probably better than Arms, not as good as Sub. I feel like we put Enhance in the high B. I don't think you're gonna see too many Enhanced Shamans playing, but I think it's pretty good. Enhance over DH, well, I'm mainly just looking at the DPS specs. I'm not ranking Enhanced Shaman versus Resto Druid. Frost Mage. I feel like Frost Mage is like in this group. I feel like a lot of these specs are just in this group right here. Just like low B. Not bad. Didn't people play Frost Mage? Hold on. Didn't people play Frost Mage in Great Push, by the way? I want to say I saw that. Dungeon leaderboards. Who was it that was playing Frost Mage? Am I crazy? Did I make that up? I could have sworn when I was looking at the leaderboards that somebody was playing Frost Mage. Was it EU? Maybe I just made that up. Or maybe that was like on the first day or something. It's good for Curator and Medivh. Okay, oh yeah, that does make sense actually. That does make sense. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's like somewhere in here again. Just like, I don't know. I'm not going to nitpick between BM and Frost Mage because you don't see either of them, but I think Frost Mage is still a mage. You have 2 blocks, does okay damage. You have slows. Slows aren't really that important right now. I'm not going to like, look, I haven't played with a single Frost Mage or BM Hunter or Ellie Shaman this tier, so it's hard for me to like, you know, nitpick in between the tiers, but it's somewhere in here. Frost DK, I don't know. I feel like Frost DK is like probably low B too. I feel like Frost DK just doesn't really bring that much. It's just like a melee DPS that just like is super cooldown reliant. Like Frost DK either does pretty good damage or just like does nothing. Like you do have some stuff, but Blood DK is S tier, so you 100% have a DK already. Frost DK lost a lot with her. Yeah, for sure. I think Frost DK is just like kind of whatever. Unholy. Do we put Unholy in the C? I haven't seen anybody enjoy Unholy at all for the entire expansion. I don't know if it's even good. Like, I feel like it's like down here in the dumps with all these specs. I feel like we put it in like, gosh, putting it in next to Rhett and Boomkin. D, dang, everyone's saying D, holy. I think we put it in here. I don't know if it's fair to put it on the same level as Aflock, but it's pretty bad. All right, Fury Warrior. I mean, I think like literally all these specs are just like here, right? Does anyone have any complaints about putting Havoc? I mean, Havoc isn't even that good. I think all these are just like low B specs. What do you guys think? Are there any complaints about yeah, okay, I can see Marksman being a little bit higher. Yeah, I can see Marksman being up here. But I mean, this is even nitpicking in between a tier. Fury A, oh wow. Dude, you guys are saying Fury A tier? You guys are saying Fury should be in here with these specs. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy if you want to put Fury in with these specs. Fury's good. Like, it does good damage, but it just like, I don't know, it just brings nothing. I mean, same with Marks Hunter. Your A tier just make no sense. All right, Dorky. Look, Dorky said the whole time Dorky's been sitting here talking shit about my list. All right, give me 5 moves, Dorky. Move 5 classes. Tell me what class and what tier it should be. This is my tier list. What does Dorky think the 5 biggest problems are? What are the 5 biggest problems right now on the tier list? Let's see the Dorky edit. No, don't, no riddles. Just tell me what your 5 movements would be. What are the 5 biggest atrocities with the tier list? No riddles. Destro, Survival, Rogue. So you think I should do this? Destro, Survival, Rogue. So you think this will just be in every single key? H-Pal, Argerid. You think these should be moved up or down? Your guess, well, not down, but I think it's weird to put it here. So this is Dorky's tier list. Everyone in the chat who's just yelling yes is only doing it because you don't play these 3 specs. Everyone in the chat that's yelling yes is not a Destrolock, Survival Hunter, or Outlaw Rogue. And you're just saying yes because you want those classes to be considered OP. I think for most people's opinions, I think this is probably... I don't know if better is the right word, but more accurate. But by my definition of S tier, meaning that you have to bring it, this would basically say that this is the God comp right here. That you play Survival, Destro, Outlaw in every key. And like these would be like only 1 key that you bring these, or 2 keys. But I think there's a lot more keys that you're going to see Fire Mage, that you're going to see. I don't know about Windwalker. I think Demolock and Fire Mage are going to appear in a lot more keys. Also, I like all that shit that Dorky talked about Blood DK, but he's not going to move Blood DK. He only had a problem with my DPS ranking. I'm just being fair. So this is the official God comp then. The official God comp, healer tier list, and then plus Dorky edit. Holy Priest, Blood DK, Destro, Survival, Outlaw. God, our team is off meta then. Our team is hella off meta. We're playing Prot Paladin, Windwalker, and Fire Mage. We're only A tier players. We're rank 1 with a complete off meta. We're rank 1 with a completely off meta comp.